everyone, and welcome to this council meeting of Monday, March the 29th. And I will ask everyone to observe a moment of silence. This council. Thank you. Scugog is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. Today, we acknowledge that we are gathering on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. We recognize and deeply appreciate the historic Indigenous connection to this land and recognize the contributions First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community in particular, our province and country as a whole. We're grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. I will now call on our clerk, Lee Fleury, to give the processes for tonight's meeting. Lee?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, for your information, Sandra Frey will be recording the minutes in eScribe this evening and conducting the votes. Should we have any technical issues during the meeting, please be patient as we try to resolve them. If we are unable to, then we will carry on with the meeting, provided that the live stream is still operating and all members of council staff and the public are still able to fully participate. I will now conduct a roll call to ascertain which members of council are present. Mayor Drew is present. Councillor Watton, are you present?
I am.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Guido?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Ross? Councillor Ross? I can see you, but I can't hear you, Councillor Ross. I'm going to mark you as present. Councillor Kiesbrink?
Present.
Councillor Brown?
Present.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, I can confirm that we do have a quorum for this meeting. I will now list the staff who are present in alphabetical order. We have Adam Dubecki, Amy Coughlin, Becky Jameson, Carol Coleman, Ken Nix, our CAO, Kevin Heritage, Laura Barta, Lori Bowers, Chief Mark Burney, Robin Prentice, and Sandra Frey. Is there any member of staff present whom I did not mention? Thank you. Also in attendance this evening are a number of delegates who we will be introducing shortly. As in previous electronic meetings, I will now review the rules for the meeting. Please mute your microphone while not talking. This will avoid any background noise that may occur where you are and will avoid any echo of the audio. Also, please ensure you are in a quiet place to limit background noise when you do speak. Please use headphones as this will improve the audio quality. If you would like to speak, please use the hand raise function in the meeting. The mayor will then call upon you when it's your turn. For members of council, if you leave your computer, please let the mayor know so that quorum can continue to be met. When moving or seconding a motion, please use the hand raise function in the meeting and the mayor will announce who the mover and seconder are. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. We will be conducting votes verbally this evening. The mayor will ask members to indicate whether they are in favor or against a motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That concludes my opening statement. Madam Mayor, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I now call for a disclosure of pecuniary interest and the nature thereof. Councillor Guido, I believe you had one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In 9.4 in our agenda, it indicates that the BIA will be presenting their budget as property owners within the BIA, and we pay the levy. I will be declaring a pecuniary interest in that section.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Kiesbrink, I believe you indicated you had a disclosure.
Yes, Madam Mayor, the same as Councillor Guido, but mine is for the Tourism Committee because our family own a tourism business. Thank you.
And that is 10.1.11. Is that correct?
I believe so.
The advisory committee, tourism advisory committee meetings?
I put it in the electronic eScribe.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct. 10.1.11.
Okay, thank you very much. Noted. There was no closed session. Announcements from council and staff, and I will start out. Tonight is the last meeting with Lee Fleury acting as our clerk, and we want to thank you most sincerely, Lee, for the support you have given us these last few months. You were so professional as you conducted your duties and responsibilities as clerk, you would think that you had written our bylaws and procedures. We felt very secure that we were conducting ourselves properly, appropriately, according to the rules and regulations of the council and that of the Municipal Act. We thank you, Lee, for your excellent work and for your friendship. And we also thank the region for stepping up in our need. I also would like to welcome our new clerk, Becky Jameson, who is observing tonight. Becky is highly regarded in Brock Township, where she comes from, and also from the region. And I know that she is as excited for this career change as we are to have her join us. Welcome, Becky. And I will call on our CAO because I believe he has an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to build on what you said. I also would like to thank Lee for jumping in and helping us. It was amazing. She fit in right away and was able to ensure that we were well covered from the clerk perspective. But she also fit into the SMT team and added to our discussions on a regular basis. So Lee, thank you very much. You were wonderful and a great help, and we felt very confident with you at our back. And please take our appreciation back to the regional team that you work with. Without their support, none of this could have happened. And similar to you, Madam Mayor, I'm very pleased that Becky decided to join our team. She did a great job at Brock, and I know they were sad to lose her. When we interviewed Becky, her enthusiasm was contagious, and her outlook and experience as clerk was well suited to our needs at Scugog. So I'd like to welcome Becky, and all of us look forward to working with her. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. CAO. Did you wish to say anything, Madam Clerk? Lee?
I just want to say that you are very welcome, and it was my pleasure, and I've really enjoyed my time here at Scugog, so thank you.
Oh, you're so very welcome. And Becky, did you want to say anything?
I'm sure, through you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for the warm welcome. I look forward to getting the opportunity to meet everyone and working with you. I'm very excited to be here, and I know I have big shoes to fill, but looking forward to it.
Well, we're looking forward to you joining us, Becky. Thank you. I'll go now to announcements from Council, and I have Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just two quick announcements. One announcement that spring appears to have sprung, and our maple syrup makers have been hard out at their the sugar shacks making maple syrup quietly on their own, as well as the farmers with their how their crop share programs released in the spring. So remember to support our local farmers and beekeepers and everybody else who's out there. The second part is Vision Zero initiative with the region of Durham, but lots of active transportation and motorcycle users out there in the spring now. It's going to be a busy year this year, so everybody keep their eyes up, please. That's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McDougall. And yes, spring is here. There's no snow on the roads, and there's a lot of speeders out there. And I know that the police are very active out there trying to warn speeders and drivers to drive safely. I seem to have lost my list. Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Ah, perfect. Brilliant. Just a couple announcements. I'd like to thank Councillor Watton for her hard work on helping the island road safety issue with the installation of new traffic light signals. And along with that, to thank DRPS for their diligence in upping the overwatch on that traffic light to help educate both residents and visitors as they use the new traffic signal. Also for the island, just want to remind everybody that the natural gas, we had an update this week from Enbridge, and natural gas is going in on the island at or ahead of schedule, and more information can be found out online. And the last thing I'd like to just congratulate colleague Councillor Kiesebrink, who is now the Vice Chair for the Kawartha Conservation. And this is great because we have a Lake Scugog Enhancement Project going forward, and to have her in that position is going to be helpful for all of Scugog. Thank you.
Wonderful news, and congratulations, Councillor Kiesebrink. That's great. That's great for Scugog and great for Kawartha Conservation. Just to add to your announcement, Councillor Ross, Director Coleman also did a lot of work to help make that turn on Island Road safe. So thank you, Director Coleman. And I don't. Is there any other councillors that have an announcement? Councillor Watton, did you have an announcement?
I do, Madam Mayor, if you don't see my hand.
No, I don't.
Okay, just thank you, Councillor Ross, and just kudos to the region. I know there was some angst about how the light was playing out, but I know that they were out a couple of days last week to try and get the timing corrected. And I would just like also to comment that through one of the communications from an island resident, well, several, I should say, there has been some questions about what happens when casino traffic begins again, and will that be impacted? And I just received an email prior to this meeting from the region saying that once it did start, they would be out to monitor again and make adjustments if necessary to the light. But the ultimate goal is to keep everyone safe, and I am truly quite thrilled that we have managed to get that light working the way it is. So mainly in the name of safety. So yeah, I'm quite thrilled about that. My second comment is just a very brief update, which is that there isn't much more to report on the Port Perry 150. We will be having our first meeting on the 1st of April this week, and I hope to be able to report back at the next meeting with some move forward plans and various things that we can anticipate for the summer. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Those are my two comments.
Thank you. And excitement, I think, is building for the sesquicentennial. And thank you again for taking the leadership role in this. Are there any other members of council that wish to make an announcement? I don't see any. Okay. I have one more announcement before we move to staff. And the mayors of Scugog, Uxbridge, and Brock were busy over the weekend, and we expressed our concerns about the lack of vaccine. So I'll just read you the email that I sent to our MPP, Lindsay Park. The mayors of Scugog, Uxbridge, and Brock have an urgent request for vaccine support. While many communities in Ontario are vaccinating residents 60 and over, we in North Durham are just opening this week for the first time for 75 and older due to vaccine shortage. The rest of Durham is also vaccinating 75 and older, and I know that this was sent before we had the reduction to 70, so that's good news. Carrying on, the vaccine shortage in Durham has caused an inequitable situation in the province, and this has affected us particularly in the northern areas. I understand that other areas in the province have appointments available, while our appointments for this week were fully booked in minutes. To rectify this situation, we urgently request the province to open up availability for pharmacies in Durham to provide AstraZeneca vaccines and to direct more Moderna vaccine to Durham that is currently estimated to arrive on April the 5th. So just wanted to give you all a heads up that that has gone out, and we'll hope that we will get some results from that. Moving to staff, I have Director Coleman. You have an announcement?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Drew. And on the theme of safety and speeding and Vision Zero, I wanted to inform council and the public that we will going to begin taking some actions towards improving safety on our roads and reducing speeding. In October of 2020, the council approved our new speed setting policy, And part of that was approving community safety zones in areas adjacent to elementary schools. So over the next month, you'll start to see these community safety zone signs going up next to all the elementary schools. Within these zones, fines will have increased through a special designation under the Highway Traffic Act, and many fines will be doubled in these zones. So we hope that that will have an impact on reducing speeding through these critical zones. Also beginning in April, our new portable speed display boards will be available for use, and we'll be starting to use those in about the middle of April after we've had some time to test them out. We have a very large list of requests for locations, and so we're coming up with a policy on how to use the speed display boards most effectively. And throughout the rest of 2021, you'll see some other safety initiatives. The region of Durham is going to be doing a public education campaign on Vision Zero, and we will participate in that as well. We're going to be coming up with a traffic calming policy to determine when and where traffic calming would be beneficial. And we will be initiating the speed limit reductions through the township.
That's great. Is that it, Director Coleman?
Yes, that's all, and I apologize for the background noise.
I didn't hear anything. So thank you, Director Coleman. Yes, we have enough to deal with COVID. We want to keep all of our residents safe. So thank you very much for that. Chief Burney.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. I have a few announcements. First, I'd like to speak to the rotating vaccination sites in North Durham. As we all know, today they begin administering vaccinations in Uxbridge, which is great news for North Durham. The vaccination clinic will rotate to Scugog on March 31st. And if people would like to look at the Scugog schedule, I encourage them to go to scugog.ca again to look at this Scugog schedule. As you said, Mayor Drew, residents in their 70-year plus can book vaccinations or vaccination appointments by visiting the durham.ca website or by calling 1-888-444-5153. In addition to residents 70 plus, the health department will continue to provide vaccinations for the current priority groups, including adult recipients of chronic home care and healthcare workers in the high priority levels, as outlined by the Ministry of Health. Mayor Drew, I'd like to also reach out to the residents who will have scheduled vaccination appointments in Scugog, and I would ask that they please arrive to the clinic no sooner than 15 minutes ahead of their scheduled appointment. By following this simple guideline, lineups should be minimized and move through the facility rather smoothly. And then lastly, Mayor Drew, I'd like to remind our residents that the scheduled burn ban is in effect effective April 1st at 12:01 a.m. And I would encourage all residents to adhere to that burn ban, please, for the safety of not only the community, but of our firefighters as well. Thank you, Mayor Drew. That is it.
Thank you. We'll now move to presentations. 9.1 Scugog Environmental Advisory Committee 2020 Annual Report and 2021 Work Plan. And I'll call on Stefan Martins, the chair of the committee. Welcome, and please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Drew. I appreciate the opportunity again to present to council. So we'd just like to go over a little bit of the history again with the presentation. Obviously, I mean, we were created in 2015, and our purpose was basically to provide a direct link to the mayor and council on environmental issues, work with council and township staff to resolve those environmental issues, and to link with local, provincial, and national environmental organizations as appropriate. We've currently I believe it was in 2018, we transitioned from 3 councillors to 1 township of Scugog councillor, whom is Ian McDougall, and an alternate, which is Councillor Guido, in 2019, plus 2 staff members, as well as 8 citizen members representing the agricultural and environmental communities. Additionally, we do have a non-voting student representative who has, I must say, been very passionate and very helpful and very, vocal on how students view things, and it's quite refreshing to see that. as well as a staff person from KRCA, which unfortunately, due to some of their reductions lately, we do not have on the committee at this time. The committee does bring a various expertise through dealing with a lot of areas such as municipal processes, policies, legislation, environmental compliance, technology, invasive species, aquatics, natural history, soils, technology, education, outreach, just to name a few. I mean, the group is quite varied. So it's definitely a passionate group, that is for sure. So we're governed by the terms of reference that are detailed on all the functional and operational issues that we must work under as a committee. But our priorities for 2021 are invasive species, tree management, outreach, education, student engagement. We do have other priorities which are within that within the committee: ground, surface water, waste management, active and sustainable transportation, infrastructure, linkages, and sustainability. We have been creating working groups to kind of work on the work plan better within the group to better track out the projects and outcomes. Reporting on the successes for 2020, we have continued to work on the invasive species strategy and removal implementation. We are continuing to work on that in 2021, obviously, and hoping to have that some sort of structure laid out for moving forward. The idling bylaw, we did make those recommendations to have that implemented and put in place to council, and we did see that council did adopt it and the bylaw was implemented, which was great because it gave the township staff additional tools to deal with any situations along those lines. We did the pollinator project in 2020, which was a seed package and information kit for residents. And it was an informational and educational component that was well received and did do fairly well. We also participated in Compost Day in 2020, which was with the tree seedling giveaway. We did have members of the committee on site with the township staff giving those seedlings away, and I would love to say, and glad to say, that all of them were, well, pretty much gone. There was a few to get rid of afterwards to alternate planting locations, but it was very well received by the residents of Scugog. Additional successes, Scugog implementation of the recycling paper and plastic pilot project in Palmer Park. Scugog Community Recreation Center and Blackstock Recreation Center in 2020. The recycling bins were placed in Palmer Park. Other areas were put on hold due to COVID-19, which, I mean, has created a little bit of an impact and flux for everybody. So it's fully understandable. And we hope to revisit that when, you know, in due time, when it's actually, you know, a little bit more municipal events and township facilities. That took place. We did actually put a motion forward on June 12th, 2019 to discourage those usages through the committee. And then during the regular meeting at council purpose in the mid-meeting September 9th, under resolution GPA 2019-113, the council basically moved forward with that resolution. We would obviously like to see an ongoing campaign to discourage that use. We understand there is difficulties there, and we do realize that only certain things can be done within township facilities, but we're always going to move forward with staff and trying to collaborate on that. We've collaborated with township staff on social media communication of events for all these events that have been going on. We have collaborated with the township staff on the EV charging stations in Scugog, and quite happy to see that those are actually going in, and I'm sure that the township is as well. So in 2020, we did have presentations and delegations, which was under the next slide. January 2020, we had the Durham Client Action Plan February 2020, we had Highway of Heroes tree campaign present to us as well. We had in February 2020 a delegation from a unnamed citizens coalition on climate emergency declaration request. And in November 2020, we had the LEAF program presentation. Linkages are obviously Kawartha Conservation and CLOCA, Lake Ridge Citizens of Clean Water, Ontario Soil Regulation Task Force, DIAC and DAC, Durham Roundtable on Climate Change, Scugog Lake Stewards, North Durham Nature, Friends of Non-Con, and Durham Region itself. As I said, Kawartha, I mean, there's been a little bit of changes there, but hopefully we'll work on those in the future. Our future at this point, what we're looking forward to is to develop and implement the projects in support of the work plan that has been provided to Council, which is in regards to invasive species and tree management as examples. Develop new and stronger linkages within the community where possible. Continue to educate and update through delegations and presentations, public engagement through outreach, ongoing student engagement, strong and decisive organized work plan, work more closely with partners, and have a more active role in planning applications or any environmentally linked projects. Which in the last council meeting that I did see that it was brought up that some of those planning aspects were to be forwarded to us for review and comment, which I did appreciate. And actually the committee was quite excited about that. And there was a lot of emails back and forth after we got one of those planning applications to discuss. Thank you. Was there any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Martins. And yes, certainly your committee has been extremely busy, and we certainly appreciate that. I'm looking for a motion to receive the presentation and approve the plan, and I would expect Councillor McDougall might want to make that motion as the councillor on the committee.
I certainly would, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Brown?
That's fine by me. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Martins? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. First of all, congratulations, Mr. Martins, on some fine work and hard work, and Councillor McDougall as well. On page 6 of 10 of your report, discourage use of single-use plastics at municipal events. I'm just wondering how you're going to go about doing that, or what plans you have to advocate that way.
Well, thank you for the question, Councillor Brown, and through the mayor. We have been working with township staff on this, and we have discussed it within the committee. We had moved for the motion to discourage the single-use plastics in 2019, which, as I mentioned, that regular meeting of council did adopt under Resolution GPA 2019-113, which was great. I mean, it's, you know, it gave a very good indication that the township wanted to move in that direction, and agreed with those concepts. We would also like to continue an ongoing campaign to discourage those uses at township events and in township facilities. Now, we did notice that I believe it was, we had talked about installing reusable water ball, installing water ball filling stations at park sites to sort of discourage the use of plastic for water balls at least. And I did note that in September 2019, Mayor Drew did mention that they would be on one of the local newspapers in durhamregion.com, that Mayor Drew did indicate that they were, staff and council were pushing to have funding available to move forward with water ball filling stations in parks, etc., which was great. Obviously, I kind of understand that, you know, it's dependent on funding, and it's dependent on where these capital projects may be implemented and how it can be tied in. I mean, within a reasonable, within reason, obviously. We have talked with staff about updating the green events and sustainability policy. And I believe in even 2010, staff had already started putting stuff in when I looked it up online to indicate, unless the date was wrong, to indicate that it is moving forward to basically not have events where waste is basically created, which is obviously tying into waste management as well. Signage, from my understanding, was posted in the various community centers. And what I would suggest at this point, while I understand there's some issues with the contract management for the supplier of products in the community centers, tying into that contract, my personal opinion would be to review it when that contract comes due to see how things can be adjusted at that point. Obviously, the policy itself is reviewable every year. So, I mean, obviously, I'd suggest reviewing it where possible. And things had a little bit of a hiccup because of COVID-19, and that's completely understandable. But we do work with looking forward to working with you know, the township and amongst the group to see what other ways we can come up with that would help with implementing that sort of plan. Obviously, it's dependent on habits and change and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, that's great. That's fine. Thank you very much for the answer.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesebrink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you very much for your presentation. Could you just maybe elaborate a little bit more on what we are doing for the invasive species? I know along the highways and especially by the lake, I forget the Phragmites or those, they're just kind of taking over everywhere. And I'm just wondering what some of the strategies are with respect to that.
So, thank you. We are working with the township staff on this to put together a request for quotation on removal of the Phragmites where it's within township property. Obviously, if it's along the provincial highway, that's actually under the province of the purview of the province. So there may not be much we can do about that. If it's along a Durham region area, we may be able to work with Durham region on seeing what they can do on that end. At this point, we're in the process of compiling the data that was done under the invasive VC. They had the students do the, oh, I can't remember what the name of it was again, but they had the students do the plotting of all the invasive species for the Phragmites. We have analyzed the data on that, and we have selected about 5 to 8 sites to go out with request for quotation with the funding that was made available. And hopefully we are planning on getting that implemented within the next couple of months and have that sort of move forward with township staff and have some of the removals begin.
That's excellent, and hopefully we can work with our regional councillor Watton to see what might be able to be done on our regional highways as well. We appreciate the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kiesebrink. Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question on your tree management priority for 2021. Can you speak to what the committee is looking to achieve? And I'm sorry, I'm hearing background noise or feedback. I'm not sure if that's my line causing it, but I apologize if anyone else hears it.
Mr. Martin.
Thank you very much for the question. We are looking at actually putting together a plan for tree management, but part of that plan is actually to survey the residents of Scugog to see sort of how amenable they would be to having some sort of tree bylaw or tree management plan in place, whether it be in urban areas or within the township or within rural areas as well. We are currently working on a questionnaire or a survey that will be vetted, which when we put it forward as a motion would be vetted by communications, the township communication staff, to see where we would kind of go with that. Under your capital projects and all that sort of stuff, or under your, when the subdivisions are built, you already have that in place under the construction policies. So that's not so much of a concern. It's more along the lines of where Durham Region's bylaw does no longer apply. So we're looking at potentially closing the gaps on that and providing the tools to township staff to react and review stuff where needed, until we have, you know, the feedback from the township and maybe the residents. I could not say where this is going to go at this point.
Okay, thank you. So if I had a tree on my property that I was looking to have removed, potentially could this tree management plan indicate whether or not it's able to be removed?
The tree management plan would indicate that. I mean, there's various other communities out there that do have the management plans indicate when trees can be removed and when they cannot be removed. Sometimes it's based on, you know, health of the tree. It's based on size of the tree. It could be based on multiple factors for that. So we would try to identify and work with township staff to make it clear and hopefully make it, you know, amenable to the majority of the people.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your answers.
Thank you very much. I see no further questions. So I will, the motion has been moved and seconded, and I will ask council to vote yay if you're in favor, verbally.
Yay.
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 In favor.
In favor, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Thank you very much, Mr. Martins. That was an excellent presentation and excellent answers. So thank you very much and to your committee for all the work that you have done and your plans for this year. Good luck. Thank you. And we'll now move to 9.2, the Scugog Housing Advisory Committee. And I will welcome Valerie Cramner to present the annual report and the 2021 work plan. Valerie, welcome. Please go ahead. Is Valerie Cramner here? I don't see her listed here. Madam Clerk, are you aware if she is planning on making the presentation tonight?
As far as I know, the invite for the meeting was sent to her, but it does not look like she has joined at this point in time.
Councillor Watton, would you be prepared to answer any questions?
Well, possibly.
Let me see, is in the agenda tonight, the Housing Advisory Committee 10.1.12, is the work plan there? Let me just look.
It is, Madam
Mayor. The plan
Mayor.
is there. So perhaps rather than a presentation, we can discuss it when we get to that in the agenda because it has been pulled. Would that be agreeable with you, Councillor Watt?
That would be fine, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, I can do it now too, but I think we might have, since we aren't having the presentation, I think that's a better idea to wait till the report is pulled.
Okay, so if Ms. Cramner doesn't get here before the end of this section of the meeting, we'll just deal with it when we get to the report. Moving on to 9.3, Economic Development Advisory Committee, 2020 Annual Report and the 2021 Work Plan. Mr. Puckrin, Brett Puckrin, if you're available, would you like to speak to your delegate, to your presentation?
I would, Madam Mayor. Thank you very much. You can hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors and staff. Just want to give a brief report with regards to 2020. We're no different than any other organization, committee, or company. COVID-19 actually impaired our ability to meet, but we also met, I believe, 6 times with regards to electronic meetings. Our tri-EDAC was canceled. So was our business tour was canceled. So just because of the pandemic. But further to that, we were able to move through the waterfront revitalization plan and provide comment. Basically, the CIP for the employment areas, the CIP for the downtown Port Perry area. And what dominated a number of our meetings were washroom uses for downtown Port Perry. Obviously, with the amount of people experiencing our town from in better weather, actually all seasons, to be very fair, washrooms were a major issue, I guess is the best way to put it. And thankfully, a partnership between the Township of Scugog, the BIA, the Chamber, provided washrooms in the classy potties on Perry Street for a bulk of the year, which was much appreciated for a lot of people. There was an issue with cleaning, obviously, but it was certainly a step in the right direction. And I know our budget is, our foreseeable budget is looking at washrooms in Palmer Park under the water revitalization plan, as well as the operating budget of the Township of Scugog, I'm told. So thank you very much for that. Obviously, we've been making comments on the number of subdivisions being finally started, and construction is certainly on the way for 2020 and into 2021. Number of in start of 2021, we've seen a number of subdivisions pretty much sold out, or nearly sold out. So demand is extremely good for our area in North Durham here, and we look forward for the continued growth. Obviously, affordable pricing is a challenge these days, as many of you have read through the news. To speak to our 2021 planned initiatives, our work plan. Thank you to Stacy Jibb and Carolyn Putteborough for helping our committee to gather the information required to make this plan work. Director Heritage, as well as CAO Ken Nix, thank you very much. We appreciate all the efforts that you put forth to getting our plan started for 2021. So if you look through our work plan there, I'm just going to comment on just the different issues or different ideas that we've got moving forward. So obviously our #1 priority is COVID-19 support and recovery, and assisting businesses and basically getting the information to our local businesses, whether it be electronic. What we found that some people aren't able to use social media or electronic means, and we've been had the initiative of even paper copies. The Chamber of Commerce through Tony Jansen and Brigitte McLeod at the BIA. They've been a wonderful support for our businesses, and certainly kudos to those individuals and those organizations and their organizations to support our local businesses. The region of Durham has also provided a reopening toolkit on the provincial framework, and basically the ones that different programs that businesses can support or gather support. And we're just making sure that that's all available to our businesses and to the people that need them. To job creation and business attraction, Basically, we want to position Scugog to be an area to attract businesses and also to increase people from working from home and maybe certainly getting into our employment areas. We continue to advocate and increase broadband access throughout our township. There are still what I call donut holes throughout the community that have a challenge with broadband internet. Those are challenges, obviously, where the COVID pandemic has shone a bright light on working from home and education from home. And I've been reading that there are new programs and new initiatives for broadband internet throughout even the province. So I want to make sure that we're at the table, that there's certain areas in our community that are what we call missing middle. We'd like to make sure that they're serviced. Obviously, we want to advocate for the sanitary sewer pumping station for the employment areas that brings servicing into our employment areas to make sure that we can attract businesses. We're losing a lot of businesses because of lack of servicing. The region of Durham has put in their budget for this year for the study for the pumping station, for a Reach Street pumping station. So that's a step in the right direction. We talked about the CIP for the appropriate employment areas, and we're going to still contribute to make sure that that comes to fruition and to make sure that works. Share commuting patterns and workforce data, that's with the regional staff. And Glenn McFarland and Stacey Jibb, with regards to Invest in Scugog website, is promoting it and using it as a useful tool for regional staff to identify land needs for various companies that want to come to Scugog. And we're also with the Envision Durham project with regards to the comprehensive official plan review at the region of Durham. We're providing comments, and we'd like to see regional planning make a presentation to our committee to make sure that they hear our comments going forward for this Envision Durham. Welcoming community. This was a section that was brought forward from our strategic plan. We've obviously, because of the pandemic, yes, we are a welcoming community, but we're pushing this out again to 2022 as hopefully that vaccines are available and we can meet safely again and go through that process. What we'd like to do for 2021 is gather feedback from our business community using a virtual format. We'd like to see what we can basically gain from where our gaps are so that we can fill those gaps and solve problems. We'd like to invite businesses owners to speak at committee meetings to hear directly what types of challenges they are facing, and a business visitation program, gain on the ground knowledge from businesses by EDAC member visits. This is really important. We gain a lot, staff actually gains a lot of information from these visits that we can problem solve and see where we can help various industry sectors. The build relationship with First Nations. This is something that we'd like to highlight for 2021 and to continue to work with MFSIN. They have a wonderful business community out there on the island with their casino. They've got major infrastructure with water and sewers, a hotel that's being built. And as we lead out of the pandemic, we would like to, they are a partner for our community, and we look forward to working with them. That brings us to the Scugog Island business community, which is part of the First Nations, and they're going to, First Nations is going to give us a little bit further direction as we move forward this year on where we can help and partner together. Marvin Stevenson has been and Jordan Mackay have been an excellent resource for agriculture and innovation and youth. We'd like to support and attract agriculture, business, and innovation, and build capacity to connect tech and ag with youth. It's an initiative that's always been an important part of agriculture for our communities, as it's the #1 industry in our community, and we'd like to promote it as best as possible. Navigation and regulations and development process. This is something that we've heard back a number of times through our business visits over the last few years, and boots on the ground type information where people are frustrated with red tape and how the development process for our community, our township happen, the frustrations that they have, and a lot of it's lack of education. We're trying to model off the town of Ajax, and obviously we don't have the manpower to, we don't have an economic development department, but we're looking at a video series that somebody maybe is a junior developer or a private citizen that's doing, whether it be a minor variance or building a building for themselves, how to go about navigating the development process, and maybe using a YouTube video series that's what to do. It's a perfect opportunity for a young person that's maybe a summer student, and we're hoping that this can get off the ground this year. And together with Uxbridge, the cannabis regulations, they've maybe been a bit ahead of us on this. So this is going to be a topic of a virtual Tri-EDAC meeting with regards to cannabis. Director Heritage has told us that the zoning bylaw and the OPA amendment is forthcoming, and how to properly deal with odor, appearance, light, traffic, security, and whether this is an industrial, commercial taxing an option. So this is something that's been a highlight over the last year or so that we need to address. And as you can see there, the timeline is immediate on that. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and any questions, I'm certainly here to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buckran. Excellent plans that you've got for this year, and you've done your committee has done an incredible amount of work this past year. And yeah, we're all dealing with COVID, and it's put extra stress on you and your committee as well. Could I have a motion, please, to receive and approve the 2020 annual report and the 2021 work plan? The representatives on the committee, I believe, are Councillor Guido and Councillor Watton. Would you like to make the motion and second it?
I would happily do either.
Thank you. Councillor Guido moving, Councillor Watton seconding.
I will, but I am not on the committee.
I'm sorry. I thought you were, my apologies. Who you are the person on the committee, are you? The councillor on the committee? Councillor Guido?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So thank you. You make the motion, and Councillor Watton is seconding. So thank you. Councillor Kuzmink, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Puckern for his presentation. Having been on the EDAC in the past, I know what a hardworking committee this is. Actually, my question is for Director Heritage with respect to evaluating the status of cannabis and the fact that we have an interim control bylaw in place for a year, but we're 9 months into that. Just wondering about the status of when the report will come forward with the recommendations for how we can handle the unique challenges in our community.
Director?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Staff have prepared draft official plan policies as well as zoning regulations to regulate cannabis within Scugog. We're planning to release that in the next couple of weeks and then hold a public open house, a virtual public open house towards the end of April. and then hold a statutory public meeting at Planning Committee in May, and then bring the final policies forward for consideration, Council's consideration in June. So that's the proposed timing we've got.
Oh, wow. Awesome. Thank you very much. And I just noticed in the minutes further, if I could, Madam Mayor, that it was mentioned that MSFIN is offering an accessible washroom in their Queen Street facility. So I think that's a wonderful update, and it would behoove us to congratulate them as well on the Sky Canoe drone delivery aircraft company that's launched in their federal government contract gained. Again, further to Mr. Puckrin's comments, that's in our community and part of the partnership that's there. So we're grateful for MSFIN, and thank you, Mr. Puckrin, for your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kiesebrink. Are you suggesting that we send a letter to the MSIFN congratulating them on both the Sky Canoe initiative and the washroom? And if that's
yes,
so,
please.
I'm happy to do that.
I think that would be excellent. Thank you.
I think we can do that. Brett, just before the meeting tonight, I got an email that Health Canada Cannabis Consultation, they're open for comment until May 7th. I'll send this along to you because I'll just read this. Great news. Health Canada has invited Canadians and municipalities to share their perspectives on the factors that may be considered for refusal or revocation of a cannabis registration on public health and public safety grounds. And the comments by May 7th. The Health Canada has seen a concerning trend with the size of certain personal and designated cannabis growing sites and issues associated with them. So, and it goes on. I will send that to you because you did mention that. So I'd be happy to send that to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments for Brett? Councillor Brown, under the consent agenda for, I'm sorry, not that one, sorry. That was for the Environmental Committee. Okay, sorry, no other questions or comments. Again, thank you very much, Brett. And we have the motion there, moved and seconded. And I would ask everyone to vote. Those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
I don't think there's anybody opposed, but I'll ask opposed. Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you once again for all your hard work, Brett. It's a tremendous amount of work that you and your committee have done, and we certainly appreciate it immensely. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, it appears that Valerie Cranmer has joined the meeting now.
Very good. Okay, we can move back to 9.2. And Valerie, if you're ready, please go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you. Do you want me on video as well, or just my voice?
No, your voice is fine. Do you have a PowerPoint or anything like that, or
no, I don't. No.
Okay, that's fine. Let's hear you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to come on behalf of the Housing Advisory Committee. And the purpose of our work plan every year, of course, is to further the discussion that was contained in the township's housing plan, the housing for all ages and all stages of life. And despite COVID-19 restrictions last year, the committee was quite busy. We were able to visit the Durham Region nonprofit housing offices in Oshawa in January, and we held our meeting there at as they offered the space, and then we visited the container house that is on their parking lot. The committee also participated in Coldest Night of the Year, as the proceeds of which, of course, go to North House and for dealing with homelessness in our area. The committee worked very hard in preparing comments on the region's housing policy planning discussion paper, and that was submitted to the region on March 1st. We've also been working on very closely, we think, with Fire Chief Mark Burney and the Township Planning Department in providing detailed comments on the brochure for the secondary units. And we are looking forward to working further with both the fire department and the township planning staff in dealing with the zoning bylaw that needs the amendment that needs to be made prior to that brochure going out. We've been keeping up to date with the Beaverton housing development that was to be developed adjacent to the long-term residence care facility in Beaverton, and it was specifically to house the homeless in Durham region. Unfortunately, last year we had to cancel our annual symposium that was to be held in November, and several other workshops due to the restrictions of COVID. However, this year we've got a very ambitious work plan, and I'll just talk a few highlights. And as we continue to working with the planning department and the fire department with respect to the secondary units, we'd like to hold a workshop on secondary units. We're proceeding with review of the parking standards in Port Perry, and with a possibility there as well of a virtual workshop. We want to create a social media campaign regarding housing issues. This may take the form of maybe 4 articles in the Focus over the year, dealing with things such as housing statistics, the homelessness issues, accessory dwellings, and some others that may come out of the Envision Durham process that the region's going through now. We are intending to provide comments to the region on the housing policy directions contained in Vision Durham. And in that regard, I had a discussion today with Brian Bridgman, the Planning Commissioner, and talking about who would be the best person to come to our committee next week to talk to us about the housing policy. He assured me that somebody will be there, whether it would be him or it would be Alan Robbins from the housing. He's going to let me know in the next day or two, but our comments are due by June 30th, so the committee is going to be very busy on that. We're also planning a symposium for November. Whether it's going to be virtual or not, the committee wants to be able to hold one, so they are working very hard toward that as well. So those are the highlights of what we did last year and what we're planning to do this year. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, Valerie, for your presentation. You're, again, a very hardworking committee and very dedicated to the job that you do, and we certainly appreciate that. Are there any questions for Ms. Cramner? Councillor Kiesebrink, your hand is up. Is that from before, or do you have a question?
I can have a statement. I can make a motion as well, Madam Mayor, to receive the report.
Yes, receive the report and approve the 2021 work plan. Moved by Councillor Kiesebrink and seconded by Councillor Watton.
Yes, I'll second that.
Thank you. Go ahead with your question, Councillor Kiesebrink.
Thank you. Just wanted to thank the committee for their hard work. I'm really excited in your work plan to see that you're talking about the possibility of bringing a Habitat for Humanity to Scugog. Currently, we drive to Uxbridge to bring things to their restore there. So I think that's a fabulous idea. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, we put that on to next year, but because it does take some organization within the community itself. From the time when I was more involved with Habitat for Humanity, they've changed the process. They like to have a group of people committed in the community in order to bring a house, a Habitat house to Scugog. So it's something that the committee talks about, but we felt that with the other things that we're doing right now, we would put it off to next year and then see what we can do about organizing a committee. And it may be ending up being one of the topics that we put in our sort of our outreach paper reports that we may put in the focus to see if we can generate some more interest in a Habitat House from the members of the community.
Wonderful. And further through you, Madam Mayor, the brochures, like having brochures ready to talk about the secondary suites, I think is a great idea. Would they be distributed in the township, like at the entrance reception area, or digitally online? What are your thoughts?
It's my understanding that the fire department will be in charge of the distribution of those, but I would expect that it would be both. It would be at the digitally as well as paper copies.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote on the motions. All those in favor, please say yes.
In favor?
Yes.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Hearing none. Thank you once again, Valerie, for your presentation tonight, and good luck with your 2021 work plan.
Thank you, and I apologize. I was having a few computer problems.
Oh,
connection problems.
It happens more often than not, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move now to 9.4, the Port Perry Business Improvement Area Board, the 2021 BIA budget, and I'll call on Birgitta McLeod, the chair, and Marina Brock, the treasurer of the BIA, to make their presentation. Welcome, and please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to speak a little bit about 2020, and then Marina, who's our treasurer, is going to speak about the upcoming year and the budget. So 2020 obviously was a crazy mixed up year, and we did have to make quite a number of changes to our budget, cancel events, and do all kinds of things to work on our members' behalf as they dealt with the pandemic and all the business closures. So some of the things that we did do last year is that we did mid-year request that our levy be reduced by 25%. So I know that that caused a lot of work on the behalf of the finance staff at the township, but we're really grateful that they did allow us to do that and did the extra work to make that happen, because that savings was a real benefit to every member of the BIA. We last year, we were in a very fortunate position that the BIA had an accumulated surplus from previous years. This was because of not having an office to rent or not having staff in place, and this rainy day fund really saved our bacon, as they say, last year. So we were able to then do a couple of things. We had a subsidized gift card program where the BIA paid 30% of the cost of the gift card, and the merchants participating got the full value of that. We were able to move our budget around a lot last year. So we canceled quite a number of events, Diva Night, Moonlight Madness, the fall event, those were all canceled. We moved some money around so that we could partner with the township and the Chamber of Commerce to rent that portable toilet trailer that was in front of the township office. And that was a great thing to do. It was a pain in the neck to keep it clean. The Chamber of Commerce really took on that role and organized all of that, and we're really grateful to them for doing that part of it. We adapted quite a number of our events past year, and then we also decided to not subsidize, but completely pay the full cost of all the Christmas lighting that goes up in the BIA, the rooftop lighting and all of that. Normally members would have to pay a portion of that, and the BIA covered the whole cost of that. So we were really fortunate that we were able to move things around, and that we had really great cooperation and partnerships with other community groups, including the township, so that we could make the best of a really lousy year. So looking ahead to 2021, I'm going to let Marina talk about that, and we're already even looking ahead beyond 2021.
Thank you, Brigitte. Mayor Drew, councillors and staff, it was hard to put the 2021 budget together just because of that. And just because of the year that we had, but we decided to concentrate on to leave the budget exactly the same as the levy in 2019 and the original 2020 before the reduction. So the levy is held at 113,833. Administration is pretty much the same. Again, we did not build in an increase in that area for staffing, expenses, rent, or utilities. Marketing and promotion, we actually reduced for 2021, anticipating that we probably still cannot run the events that we normally do run in the summertime and the summer and fall months. So that budget has been reduced, and our marketing committee has stated that they're happy to stay flexible. If vaccination is extremely successful, if things open up later on in the season, perhaps we can add events, and that we can then spend some money on marketing in that area. Under the events section, a large expense, as Brigitte was mentioning, is the Christmas lighting. The Christmas lighting is very, very successful for many reasons. It's sort of a mood booster in the Christmas months, and it allows everyone to participate. So we have budgeted to do the 100% Christmas lighting again next year. Now that can change if for some reason we do want to open up events. So this budget, all the directors and our members at the AGM, we all decided it would be very flexible. So if COVID gets better, as I said, if we're going to move, we may do something different in lighting and move that money more towards marketing, but it will all depend on how everything progresses during 2021. Again, the carriage rides, which are all very popular, will continue with that, and our street entertainment in the summer, because that is the street entertainment is another great feature that we've done for the last couple of years, and it just really it can be done with safely social distancing, and I think it is very welcomed by many in the community. Area beautification, that stays, again, pretty constant. The only difference there is we're not going to purchase any more garbage cans, that we do share the cost with the township, but we think we have enough for our main street as far as those go. And we have some banner hardware replacement on the lampposts. Things are getting older, things are getting broken, and we do have to do some maintenance there. And we did have a lot of problems with the lighting. When we do put all our decorations on the lampposts, we find that some are not, the lights don't work sometimes. The actual the electricity on those lampposts are not functioning properly due to, it seems there was some moisture getting into the lampposts. So we did incur a lot of costs there. And we had to put extra budget in that in order to carry out our decorating program for next year. That is something we will hopefully be working in area development to discuss with the township regarding that. But we had to account for it so that we can not go over a budget. So again, a flexible budget. There may be some movement, but the key here is to keep the levy with no increase for the members that have had a pretty tough year. Thank you.
So the only thing, Maureen, I'll just add is that when we made this budget up and presented it at the AGM, since that time, a couple of grants programs have been announced, and so we are considering applying for a couple of grants to enhance our music program this year, and that is going to, of course, contingent on a successful grant application.
Right. That's great. Thanks, Brigitte. Okay. So we can open up for questions or?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation, and congratulations on getting through 2020 as well as you did, and the incentives that you put in place for the use of sort of your little contingency fund. I know that I bought a bunch of those gift certificates and am enjoying them, and good luck on your 2021 work plan. So could I have a motion, please, to receive the presentation and approve the BIA budget? Councillor Kiesebrink, Councillor Brown?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments of the presenters? Councillor Kiesebrink?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to thank Ms. Brock and Ms. McLeod for the presentation. Excellent presentation, and the BI did an amazing job with their continuous Christmas lights installed. A lovely feature for our downtown. Thank you for all the work that you all do to remove the garbage and keep the downtown looking beautiful. Congratulations to the 2 student volunteers. Great job. And what an interesting idea to light up the Port Perry on the old mill. I'm just curious to know how much LED lights would cost, because they're not that expensive. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, or is that just a cursory idea at this point?
Brigitte?
Sure. The lighting of the Port Perry words on the mill, it was an issue, was getting a light strong enough to beam from across the street that would light that up effectively. So I think it was tried and it just didn't look as good as we'd hoped, and we only had a certain amount of budget available, so that's why it didn't happen this past year. But we're considering lots of ideas for Christmas lighting. I think we wanted to make sure the money was put in the budget there so we could do a beautiful job.
Mm-hmm.
What that final lighting will look like, I don't think we've actually fully decided it yet.
Okay. And further through you, Madam Mayor, has there been a resolution? I think in the minutes there was a statement regarding the cost of the repair of banner hangers and also the winter snowflake decorations, and possibly sharing that with the township. Was that resolved yet, or is that still something being discussed?
I think I can answer that.
Please.
The snowflakes themselves, the snowflake lights, I mean, they're getting old. They're 10 years old, so we have to cover the cost. I think the BIA has to recover the cost of those lights, but it's the damage to the lamp posts that are the issue, and that we need to discuss, and we have not taken that much further. Joanne Callery is the head of area development on our committee, and I think she's going to be working with the township a little bit more on that. These things happen sort of, when we're trying to install these lights in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to take a little bit of time to sort of understand from an electrician's point of view what the problem is and how we can resolve this.
Okay.
Same thing with the banner hardware replacements. This is the first time, I mean, this has happened. Everything was sort of new before. So it's a matter of, I guess, sitting down with township staff and deciding who's responsible, for what and for the upkeep of what, and how we'll have to add that probably to our agreement that we have with the township on those items.
Super. And just one further question, if I could, and Madam Mayor, this may be a question for you, I'm not sure, but I'm just wondering what the process is. Open streets is something that's still being sort of evolving, and in the minutes there's a mention from the BIA that if anything does proceed, that there could be budget needed for beautification and $2,500 for marketing. Is that already put into this budget, Ms. McLeod and Ms. Brock, or is that something that would have to be in addition to what's already been put here?
I can answer that. I could say that the BIA hasn't allocated any funds at all specifically to anything additional related to the Open Street project.
So further, presumably there wouldn't, no one knows if anything would be happening at all, but if something does happen, partway through the year, what would be the process to ensure that the BIA has the resources that they need? I will defer to you, Madam Mayor. I'm not sure who to ask that question to.
Well, I think you can ask the question of the presenters.
Well, I can respond to say that the first task force on that project isn't meeting until Wednesday morning this week. So it's not a, the decision hasn't been made yet on what's going to happen in that regard. And so the purpose of the task force is to explore that issue further. But it was the BIA, frankly, didn't want to raise the levy this year on the members. And so with the current levy, we can only really afford to do the bare bones basic of what we did last year. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Councillor Keisling, I thought that was just any other incident that might come up or emergency that might come up that you were asking about contingencies, but it was about the open streets, was it?
Correct,
Oh,
Madam
sorry.
Mayor.
Okay.
It was just more about protocol because we're all in uncharted waters. We're currently passing a budget that doesn't encompass that particular need. So I'm just wondering, and I could just leave it at that, but it was just a question. I just wanted to make sure that the BIA has that further support if needed because of all the work that they've already done with this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just want to congratulate my teammates with the BIA for their presentation. Well done, ladies. Thank you very much. I have one, maybe two questions, so 1.5 questions. We talked about the problems with lighting on the lampposts, and you mentioned Joanne. I know that there have been conversations between, there may be email conversations between Joanne and the township. I believe Director Coleman, I don't think I'm incorrect in suggesting that. I'm just wondering if Director Coleman can give us an update if there is one to be had on that matter.
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. There was some correspondence about how much weight the arms could hold. And we have been replacing the decorative poles because they are older and there are issues with them. We were able to replace about 10 or 11 of them when we received a grant for downtown revitalization. That's the only correspondence that I've had recently. With respect to the banner hangers, our current MOU between the township and the BIA does state that the BIA is responsible for the banners and for the brackets that support them. Of course, anything can be discussed in the future, but that's what the current MOU does say.
Okay, thank you. And this, I guess, would be for Brigitte, although maybe Marina wants to chip in. Are we aiming for to have an event in the fall? Is that how far we're looking? The BIA is looking right now at if we get something off the ground, it'll be this fall. Would that be accurate?
Yes, I think we're watching, and we know people love events in the BIA, and we love to put events on, and so that's. We have actually allocated a small amount of money in the budget right now for a fall event. But it's like incredibly minor. We have the contingency that we set aside. And so if we decide that a fall event is in the cards, we can move some of our money around. So maybe Marina, maybe you can elaborate more on that.
Yes, I would like to. Yes, the fall event, that was just a placeholder there for fall decorations. We didn't have the budget last year we put some corn stalks up on all the lampposts, but again, Joanne Callery, Area Development, asked if she could have extras to put maybe some sunflowers or pumpkins, or it's just to add to the decoration to make it even look more festive. So that 300 is only for decoration. And again, yeah, if we can do an event, I mean, we can move money around for other places, but we hadn't anticipated an event for fall, just based on the current numbers, with COVID.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you both ladies for the presentation. That's great. A quick question I had with regards to the minutes of the AGM. I noted that we've had a lot of discussion this evening, of course, about washrooms, and as Mr. Puckern had talked about, said washrooms have been a big problem this year in terms of having washrooms for people to use who come to town to visit, stroll, go through our shops, etc. I noted that in the minutes that there was discussion about using the washrooms at 250 Queen Street. Now, I understand that there's going to be made some endeavors to make, I believe, the tourism office and those washrooms accessible. But it says in the minutes that the other tenants and the Chamber of Commerce would not allow the use of the existing washrooms. Is that going to be an ongoing problem, or will that be resolved?
I can respond to that. That will be resolved because the lease agreement always included a main floor accessible bathroom in that building, and it's just been delay after delay and COVID and all of that. That is the reason why we don't have that facility yet. But the plans have already been approved, as I understand from an email I received today, the building permit. So it always was the plan that on the main floor there will be an accessible bathroom for the public to use, and that the bathrooms on the second floor of that building are for use of the tenants, the other tenants in the building. So we will be making progress on that shortly.
Okay.
Is there any idea of timing on that, Brigitte?
I'm afraid I don't have anything specific. I know that we've told the landlord that it's really important to us that this project be done when the spring visitor season is on us, because as the weather warms up, of course, more and more people come to town and more people need a place to go. So they're aware of our desire to have things happen quickly, and I think we're finally seeing action, but I couldn't give you any firm date on that at all.
Okay, thank you. Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for Brigitte for that. A question for you, Brigitte, just in terms of, it doesn't really affect me myself as much because I tend to walk and bike a lot, but I know that parking is always an issue, and I just have a question for the BIA in general. Is parking in the downtown core an issue in terms of like the quantity of spots we have, or is it just a question of being able to direct people to available parking, or maybe the duration of parking that people are allowed to stay? Just for a general feel, like what's the direction of the BIA?
I think that in general, there's a couple of things going on. Firstly, people love convenience, right? So they all want to park right in front of the store they want to go to, or find a quick and easy parking spot. And so one of the issues that we learned last year was that we need to better direct people to where parking is available. For example, on the weekend, people didn't know that you could park in the township parking lot for free. So better signage went up in that way. So I think that that's one of the issues. I think the other issue is that it has come up many times at BIA board meetings that some folks are parking for a long time on the street. So, and this could be tenants who live, it could be employees, it could be people who own businesses, it could be people who go to a picnic and spend, 6 hours in Palmer Park, but have parked right in a prime spot on Queen Street. So there's never, I'm only answering based on, sort of my general feelings on this. I don't have a study I can quote or anything like that, but generally there's a decent amount of parking. It's people just don't want to go very far to get to it.
That's true, and we do have some studies, Councillor McDougall, on parking, and hopefully we've got a bylaw tonight to officially appoint a part-time bylaw officer, Alan Ouellette, and so hopefully with that help, additional help, we'll be able to have a look at the people who are parking for longer times than they should on the prime parking spots. And as you say, people do want to park in front of the store that they want to go into, but good luck when you're in any of the southern municipalities to be able to do that. and you'd probably have to pay to park 2 blocks away from where you want to be. Anything further, Councillor McDougall?
No, that's all. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from council? Seeing none, the motion has been made and seconded to the presentation be received and that the budget be endorsed. All those in favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Once again, thank you very much, and thank you for all that you do. It was a rough year last year. You got through it, and you know, actually our BIA area is doing very, very well considering the obstacles in our way in the past year and this year. So congratulations on that. It's a prime area, and you've made the most of it. So thank you very much, and good luck in the 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll move on to 9.5. Mr. Jason Enling, who would like to speak to us about the proposed chieftain development at 235 Union Avenue. And I'd just like to say to you, Mr. Enling, that you're welcome to make your presentation, give us your feelings. I understand you have some questions. We'll hear your questions. You can finish your presentation, and then staff will answer your questions. So please go ahead,
right,
Mr.
Sounds good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Madam Mayor and Council. I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm a local arborist. I've been an arborist for over 20 years. So I also just kind of recently I've been kind of more community involved here. I used to work for a big conglomerate company down in the city, but since COVID kind of hit, I decided to kind of change my career path. So I'm just doing an inquiry here on the chieftain development at 234 Union Avenue. So I've got caught up on some of the stuff you discussed already, so I'm going to try not to repeat anything that has been brought up before. I would like to mention, so there's a discussion I heard from last week was that there's the hedgerow of mature trees, of mature Norway spruce along Union Avenue that is deemed to be now going to be protected and taken care of municipally. So I heard also that there's going to be a 7-meter strip there for that, and that's great. One of the things that I was noticing on that site, I used to live in that area back in the 90s, is that that row of trees, that hedgerow of Norway spruce there, is probably the oldest trees on that lot. They're probably around the same age as a lot of the ones that are up in the cemetery there. And one of the things I was going to mention, I know there was discussion about a service connection through there. And the only thing I would like to even point out, maybe not even ask a question because you're not going to know much about what the service connection is going to be. But if you start removing 1 or 2 of those trees, it will expose the rest of the 18 trees in that line. So one of the things that whatever is going to happen in there, as long as it's kind of minimal disturbance, I do know you'll be voting on this later. One of the other things, I know there was a question because there was 24 trees talked about before, and I'm well aware along Union Avenue, there's 18 Norway spruce there, but that hedgerow actually dog legs right between the Ribcore and the Chieftain developments. And there's another 6 trees, same age, same size, that go west from that hedgerow. Now, I know that's probably not going to be something that they would transfer over to the municipality by any means, but they are the same age, and that is part of that hedgerow. And I would probably really like to maybe think that someone could ask in good faith if those developers can try to save those trees. I looked at the plans, and those trees would be going in backyards of those houses along there. There's no reason that they can't preserve some of those extra trees along there. One of the other things I wanted to mention was those trees, I know the municipality that was talked about last week is taking over the wood lot that's saved along that forest laneway there. And a lot of those trees are starting to come down there because of the exposure to wind and stuff like that there too. So I would warn the municipality, for safety and for tree health reasons and stuff like that, I think that's Ribcorp or Chieftain or whoever's supposed to be in charge of transferring that wood lot over to the municipality, that they actually can do something to save it in the meantime. So I have two other quick points to make, and then if there's anything else, you guys can ask me. One of the things I think this situation here that I kind of have been paying a bit more attention to over the last couple of months is kind of the need for monitoring some of the developers and the builders in this township. And I know there was talk even earlier in the meeting about a bylaw or a tree preservation type bylaw. Maybe not be good for the whole township since it's mostly farm and country, but in town here, I think this kind of stuff really starts to show us the need for it. I've seen some of the developments, including this one here, which not only really builders aren't interested in saving trees. I mean, it just gets in the way of some of their plans and some of their houses they want to build. So one of the things that I think that's really important for like the township like Scugog is to kind of take a project like that and work with it, because the builders aren't going to do that on their own. And unless you have a bylaw with some teeth to it to kind of control, salvaging older, mature, and desirable trees, I think that's going to be very important. So that's just kind of the stuff I wanted to ask or mention, but really see if there's any chance that there's more trees along that hedgerow that can be saved. I don't know if the municipality can enforce that, but it's something I think that should be brought up.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Anything else you would like to say? You've got a couple of minutes.
The only other thing I was going to mention was I'm not sure when this builder was planning on removing the trees or start cutting stuff down in there, but they're like, if it's in the spring here, there's the Migratory Bird Act, and I know that's an Ontario thing, it's not a municipal thing, but someone will probably have to kind of review that with them before they start cutting, because there's probably a good chance in all that meadow and forest area that's there that they'll be cutting down, that there will be migratory birds in there in the spring. So, but that's about it.
I'm not sure that there's any. Well, I'll let staff answer your questions. Robin, do you have some answers for the gentleman? Robin
Sure,
Prentice?
for you. Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So just try and capture all that, and I'll try to address the things I heard. But there was talking about the Norway spruce and the 18 trees that are directly on Union Avenue, that are the majority of which are proposed to be protected through that landscape strip. Yeah. We recognize that we have reviewed those plans and the potential impact from the servicing connection with our peer review arborist that the township retained to look at that. And that was a specific question we asked: if the servicing connection goes through, what happens to the impact to the rest of the trees? We were advised that while the arborist appreciated that it would impact one or two trees or a couple trees, he was of the opinion that it would not impact the overall health of the overall hedgerow that would be remaining. So we did ask those questions, and we do have a peer review arborist looking at these plans for us. With respect to the dogleg, there are an additional 6 or 7 trees that are along the Ribcorp Chieftain border that are not part of the hedgerow along Union Avenue. Of those trees, only 4 are new Norway spruce. There is a mix of ash, Norway maple, and basswood in there as well. And a couple of those are located on the Ribcorp property, which does already have some approvals. As I mentioned at the last meeting, staff are willing to have further discussions with the developers to see if any further trees can be saved as part of that dogleg along the rear of those properties. But we do recognize that given the topography of this site, there is significant grading works that need to take place. So that is something we all have to take into account. Moving along, you brought up the migratory birds, and yes, staff are well aware of the nesting periods and when trees can and cannot be removed. So that is something we are aware of, and that was something we would take into account in terms of any construction schedule or when trees are removed as part of that construction schedule. I think I've addressed all the matters that I had written down, but let me know if there's any other questions.
Okay, Robin, there was a mention about the procedures, the protocols, the rules that we have in place for developers about saving trees. And I know that we have specific requests and specific guidelines that we have. Could you touch on that?
Sure. So yes, as part of any development application, the developer submits plans such as an arborist report, an environmental report, a tree preservation plan. These are all regular submissions that come in with the development that staff reviews and has peer reviewed. Our main goal is to identify any areas, significant environmental areas and significant trees that are to be protected through the development. Then as we move forward, we implement certain procedures to, like, tree protection measures are looked at as part of a construction management plan to protect the areas that are to be protected and the trees that are to be protected and preserved. There is an acknowledgement that some of the trees will be removed from the property, and so the township does have a tree replacement and compensation policy that we use. So any trees that are removed, we take a look at how many trees are planted on the site, and we also take a look at some financial compensation if an appropriate number of trees can't be planted on the site. The township takes a financial compensation to plant additional trees off-site. Another thing that we do require, because we are taking ownership of the landscape strip and the woodlot, and you did bring up some of the matters with the woodlot, would be with respect to having the developer, and this is a draft plan condition that was attached to the report, having the developer take some of those edge management of that woodlot and the hedgerow itself and clean them up before we take ownership of it, just to ensure that we're not taking ownership of something that we then have to spend some money up making sure the trees are safe in that area. So that's something we do work with the developer.
Thank you, Robin. And could you just comment on when there is a replacement of trees, that, you know, new plantings, what about the size? Do we stipulate the size, or is it a twig?
It's not necessarily a twig. We do have requirements for our trees that are, I believe it's a minimum of 70 millimeters diameter or DBH. And we do also take into account the size of trees that are approved to be removed. So it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. We do take into account where it is a larger tree, we do have to plant additional trees to make up for that.
Okay, and the one last thing I think that was brought up is in the woodlot, there is some exposure there that those trees have not been accustomed to. Mr. Enling was asking about the exposure and how to protect them. Got any comments on that, or what did the arborist have to say about that? Robin, are you there?
Sorry, I was on mute. So as I was mentioning, we do require the developer to have certain protection measures in place as part of construction, but also beyond that, we require the developer as a draft plan condition to take some edge management of that woodlot to ensure that the woodlot is brought up to a better quality before the township takes ownership of it.
Thank you very much.
So that
I
would
think
help,
that
that would help with that.
Thank you very much. I think that addresses your questions, Mr. Enling. Are there any questions from council? Councillor Kiesebrink, your hand is up. Is that from before?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just going to make a motion to
receive the report, receive the presentation.
I did have a comment.
Please go ahead. Councillor
Can you hear
Kiesebrink?
me, Madam?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you?
Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Just another note. Ms. Prentice had emailed about, which hasn't come out in the discussion, but I think it's an important point. There was some photos circulated in social media with little sticks. And I think it's important to note that that photo specifically is representational of a wetland compensation package that was required by the Kawartha Conservation Authority and not part of the township's tree replacement requirements. Maybe Ms. Prentice had brought that, had explained that to me because I was asking her some questions. And maybe you could comment on that as well, Ms. Prentice.
Sure,
Prentice?
through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I did clarify that the pictures taken of the plantings in Canterbury Commons is my understanding that that was part of a wetland compensation package that was required by Kawartha Conservation Authority. This would be in addition to any of the township's tree replacement requirements, and those trees that are pictured or were in those photos were not the township's tree replacement. It's my understanding that additional tree planting will be taking place in Canterbury in accordance with the township's tree replacement requirements. And as I said, our requirements are for a minimum 70 millimeter DBH in size.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I have a seconder to receive the presentation? Councillor Guido? Did you wish to second that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I will.
Okay. And do you have a question?
Well, I did have a question, but I think Ms. Prentice has addressed it, but I just want to ensure one of the points that Mr. Enling had raised was that in the woodlot, trees are coming down because of exposure to wind, etc. Do we have a number of how many trees have come down that should have remained intact? But second to that question would be, if a tree is coming down due to wind exposure, does that indicate any other health issues with the tree that the wind would be able to knock over a tree?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not aware of how many trees have come down in the woodlot. As I mentioned, we will work with the developer to take a look at the status and health of the woodlot to ensure that proper forest management is taking place. That's something that takes place in any woodlot and any private or any property really, is proper forest management techniques and best management practices. So that's something we will work with the developer on with respect to most likely the edge management and how any exposure can be addressed.
Thank you.
Just to add to that, some of the trees around the periphery have been addressed in the Ribcorp Chieftain plans. So some of those trees and their health and status have been documented. So we can take a look at that.
Thank you. Further, Councillor Guido?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if I may, through you to Mr. Enling, I just have a couple of questions, please. There's been much reference over the last few weeks about the age of the trees and the trees being native and significant and so on and so forth. And Mr. Enling, I just wonder, as a certified arborist, could you give me some understanding of what the Norway spruce are and what the age of them is? Like in my research, I found that they can grow 2 to 3 feet high per year, and there's conflicting information all through, of course, as usual per the internet and our resources. So I just wondered, as an arborist, if you could just give me your thoughts on the age of those spruce, and you know, if someone were to ask you, or as we have in our bylaw, protection of significant trees, what constitutes a significant tree?
So firstly, those are not native trees. They and that's probably why it's a little bit easier for me to tell how long they've been there. A lot of farms at the turn of the century in the 1900s. I don't know if there was a special discount on them, but Norway spruce were planted as windrows right around, so any of the farms in Skugog dating back to like 1880 to early 1900s, they were put in there to keep soil from blowing away and stuff like that, and the dust bowls and stuff like that. So that's what those trees there. That's why I'm saying they're probably oldest, because I've seen some of the ones up on along Josephine and in the other back lot there. There's a lot of like stuff that was from the old farmstead, but like even Norway maples, there's a lot of Norway maples in there, also not native. There's a lot of sugar maples, black walnuts. So that's the issue always is when you're thinking about a tree preservation type bylaw is size, age, species dependent is definitely a determiner whether something's worth salvaging, because that also determines there's trees that I would consider weed trees or non-native weed trees that are invasive. Like that's not something that you'd probably want to think about in a bylaw. But I'm not sure if that kind of answered that question there.
Partially. You didn't speak to how fast Norway spruce grows.
Yeah, they grow they are fast growers. Now the one thing that happens with the Norway spruce and all trees, once you get past its prime age, then it won't be growing more than probably a couple of inches a year. So when they're immature and young, they'll be growing 2 to 3 feet a year. Once they get up to any tree, probably getting past age 60 probably does not put too much more height on it. It will put more girth on the stem. So once they're past their prime, they tend to not put on all that height and size on the crown anymore.
So given that if they were growing or planted in the 1900s, these trees are about 100 years old, would you?
Yeah,
or 110 years old? Is that
I would say, yeah,
your
1 to 120.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And if someone were to come to you and ask you to define significant as an arborist, how does an arborist define that? I mean, I know we have a family tree that's been on our farm forever, and it's been everything, to everyone, and it is for us significant. But in a professional world, what is significant?
In general, so there's a lot of municipalities in Southern Ontario with bylaws. Some of them have very little teeth and are very, very hard to enforce, and they don't really save much. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, in Durham, Skugog is just catching up to the rest of Durham, but Pickering and Whitby have been taking down giant, mature, significant trees for 25, 30 plus years. And that's what the issue usually is. When you think about it, mature ones, you probably have to go with just even size, like the size. They call it DBH. It's the width at a certain height. That's usually the easiest determining factor of whether something has been around for a while. So, and yes, it makes it tough.
So significant is not really defined unless you go by like Trees Ontario or a description for that in the world of an arborist. Is that, am I correct in assuming that? Okay.
Yeah, then a lot of municipalities have exemptions for certain types of species, like ash trees, which are dying everywhere. That would be a waste of time to start trying to stop people from taking down ash trees. They're dying all over the place. So it's species specific and it's size specific, and it's going to be tough. But man, the development in this town is really starting to push the limits on what's coming down.
Right. Okay. So, and if I may, Madam Mayor, I just have one further question. I think somewhere through the conversations in the past few weeks, we have heard that this particular developer, Mr. Brand, has offered to replace some of the trees, and I stand to be corrected, but they were a substantial size as opposed to the twigs. I believe they were over 15 feet high. Would that be considered suitable compensation in again, as in your world?
It's difficult because one of the things with planting trees, especially decent sized trees like that, it's not just planting them, it's also caring for them and making sure they make it to like age 10 to 15. A lot of stuff planted in new residential areas is planted in compacted soil. They don't really stand as much of a chance. And that's why something that's been there for a while, if it's protected, is always going to be more desirable than these and it's not twigs. Even if it's a 15-foot tree, that's a good sized tree, but they'll take 3 to 4 years before they really increase any size. Every tree that gets planted gets transplant shock, and it really doesn't do much until it kind of gets its roots in. So
Okay, I just was curious. So I appreciate your candor, and thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, Robin, from the discussion?
Nope, nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other hands, and I want to thank you, Mr. Enling, for your presentation tonight and your questions. And I hope that they were answered satisfactorily, and that you're happy with the conditions that we put on when we have development in this township. So we have
thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We have a motion on the floor that is seconded to receive the presentation. Could I call the vote, please? All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Once again, thank you, Mr. Enling.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move to the consent agenda. I'm wondering, do we need to have a break before we go into this? It's 8:30. How about we call a 10-minute break? We'll be back at 8:40. And thank you. Welcome back, everyone. And Madam Clerk, will you call a roll call, please?
Councillor Watton, are you present?
I am present.
Thank you. Councillor McDougall.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Councillor Guido.
I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ross.
Present, thank you.
Councillor Keysbrink. Councillor Keysbrink. Okay, Councillor Keysbrink is not here yet. And Councillor Brown.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Now we've got a number of items on the consent agenda, and I think it might be easier if I go over the ones that we have given consent on that have not been pulled. So 10.1.2, 10.1.3, 10.1.6, 10.1.10, 10.1.13, 10.1.15, 10.2.1, 10.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are our bylaws. Are there any other polls? Seeing none. Do we have Councillor Keysbrink back yet? Not yet. Okay. So motion to approve the ones that are left on the consent agenda, that Councillor Watton and Councillor Brown. All those in favor, please say yes.
In
Yes.
favor.
In favor.
Favor.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Okay, we move to 10.1.1. The council minutes of February the 22nd. Councillor Brown, you pulled out.
I'll move that if I may, Madam Mayor.
Yes, please.
And okay, this I believe this may be for Director Coleman. Page 3 of 13. It says Durham Regional Police remind users of the trails and lake to pick up garbage. I just want to know, do we have another pick up garbage in your culvert kind of day set in the future?
Director Coleman?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor, we do have a couple of waste or litter pickup events coming up soon. The first one is the week of April 18th to 25th, which is Earth Week. We're doing a pitch-in week as we usually do, and any partnership groups or any groups or communities in the township are welcome to sign up for the township, and we will provide gloves and garbage bags, and then we will come and pick up the bags when they are done. And also on May 11th is the second annual Provincial Day of Action on Litter. And on that day, we'll be promoting a 20-minute cleanup for council and staff and other businesses if they want to participate as well, to just go outside for 20 minutes and pick up the waste around their businesses.
Great. That's all I'm after. Thank you.
Thank you. And will that be well publicized, Director?
Absolutely. Yes, we will work with communications and we'll make sure that word gets out there.
Very good. Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Watton?
Yes.
Any other questions on this, on those minutes? Councillor McDougall? No? Okay. All those in favor, please say yes.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Oh,
In
you're
favor.
back, Councillor Keysbrink. Good. Okay, opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you. 10.1.4, Planning and Community Affairs Committee, Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to both Robin and Director Heritage, I do have several questions that I'm hoping to get addressed. And it's no specific page, just the chieftain proposal in general on the minutes. Through Madam Mayor to Ms. Prentice, is there any reason to believe that the region has not explored every option possible for servicing?
Director or Robin?
Sure, sorry, I was just unmuting myself. Through you, Madam Mayor, the township explored the various options or alternatives for that servicing connection with the region and the developer, to try to avoid going through the trees. And in our discussions, any of those options or alternatives were found not to be feasible from a technical perspective, and also with respect to the existing infrastructure that is under Union Avenue where the connection needs to take place.
So the north and south of the hedgerow, was that one of the options that were explored? Robin?
Yes, yep, through you, Madam Mayor. We did take a look at the alignment of the pipe and where it is located and connected through to Union. And yeah, even if it's on the edge of the landscape strip, it still could impact a couple of the trees in that strip. So that's something we would have to, as I said, confirm with the detailed design of the pipe.
Okay, thank you. My other question, my next question, I believe, was already addressed regarding the pictures that were circulated of a very small twig-like planting. So in essence of time, I will move on. There have been some comments that some trees within the protected woodlot have been damaged by ripcord development. I know when Mr. Enling did his presentation, we addressed this, but I am wondering if there's anything in addition to the site plan agreement that we've already laid out in the last council meeting, if anything else can be put in place to ensure that the protection of the woodlot is in fact there. Similar to what we've done with the chain link fence around the hedgerow, which we're asking for, if there's anything in addition that we can do for the woodlot.
So yes, because there are further works on the Chieftain site, we can definitely look at what measures are put in place around the woodlot to ensure that they are protected from any further construction in that area.
Okay. If I may ask our clerk, do we need to make any type of amendments? I know we're approving minutes right now, so there's not necessarily a motion, but in order to ensure that, and I know staff would do this, but to ensure that that protection is added to the site plan or considered, do we need to make any type of motion for that?
On the conditions, would that be Councillor Guido?
Mm-hmm.
I believe you had made a motion at the last meeting, Councillor Guido, and we had added in that condition about the chain link fence.
Right, for the hedgerow, but this is in particular to the wood lot that is within the development area.
I think staff could probably take that as direction, but I would be more comfortable if Robin would answer that.
I'm just trying to pull up the wording from the last meeting. Was it specific to the landscape strip?
I believe it was.
Okay. Again, staff are happy to take that back and we would work to ensure that regardless.
Thank you, Robin. My next question, does the reconstruction plan for Union Avenue have any correlation to where the servicing needs to go for the Chieftain development?
So the Union Avenue reconstruction project is taking place on Union Avenue south of Josephine Street. So it does not impact the servicing under Union where the Chieftain servicing connection would tie into. So there's no impacts from that perspective.
Okay, thank you. And through Madam Mayor, I apologize, I have a few more. Let me start that one over again. The detailed servicing plan, at what point can we see this from a council perspective? I realize it doesn't need to come back to council officially, but will it be circulated back to council and those residents who have been inquiring about the detailed plan?
Staff are happy to take a look at once the plans are approved and releasing them informally to council via email circulation, as well as to any resident that requests it.
Thank you. And would this be circulated prior to any earthworks commencing?
Yes, staff can circulate it to council ahead of that. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. And then I have two last questions. I apologize. So the OP subsection 3.23 in respect to the woodlot tree preservation, replacement, and enhancement indicates that trees forming a cluster of trees consisting of 5 or more trees and containing at least one significant tree and any significant trees defined a hedgerow are to be protected. Is the hedgerow in question, does it fit under this protection that we have in our OP?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the discussion that took place as part of the delegation regarding native versus non-native is kind of where we would take some direction with respect to how significant trees are defined. Typically, you'd want to protect native species. And as mentioned, the Norway spruce is not a native species that would not necessarily be captured under this policy, which is why it was not implemented initially. The change to protect the hedgerow along Union Avenue being made up of mature Norway spruce was in response to the public feedback we received through the process, and that was something we worked with the developer to achieve.
So the staff's opinion then that it would not fall under that protection that we have in our OP. Again, the policy usually stems from the protection of significant native species. Right. Okay, thank you, Ms. Prentice. Prior to this council meeting, about 20 minutes prior to the council meeting, I received 2 very similar emails from residents inquiring as to whether or not the butternut trees would be able to be moved and transported to a private residence, and I'm assuming that would be at their cost, not at our cost. And I apologize that I didn't even have an opportunity to ask you this in advance, but are tree movings of this nature ever a consideration in a site plan or in a development? So the 2 butternuts that will actually be removed are actually within the Josephine Street right of way. Right. So they're on municipally owned lands. I would have to defer that potentially to Carol's group, and we can discuss that and take that back. Typically, and I did ask the question when the butternuts came up and the compensation plantings that are required in accordance with the provincial regulations came out with respect to, well, if we transplant them, what does that mean? What are the impacts there? Basically, any impact and transferring them is considered an impact. It doesn't matter if you transfer them or just remove the butternuts. In this case, the requirements are still the same from the compensation side of things. So I'm happy to take that back. If there's a private resident that would like to consider removing those butternuts and transferring them at their own costs, we can take that back and discuss with Public Works and how that takes place. But essentially, the compensation plantings are still the same. Right, absolutely. And I will forward those emails to you and connect the residents with staff, and they can determine if that's something that they would like to endeavor to do.
Excuse me, Director Heritage, did you have something you wanted to weigh in on that subject or question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There was just one other comment I wanted to provide in terms of the questioning along the lines of the grouping of 5 trees. Staff and the developer have been really working hard in order to come up with a plan to preserve those Norway spruce trees along the hedgerow. And I feel that we've both gone above and beyond what's required in our official plan to preserve those trees, because as indicated by Mr. Jason Inling, these trees are not native, and the requirement in the official plan speaks to native and non-invasive trees being preserved. So I just wanted to emphasize that point, that we've gone well above and beyond what's required in our official plan to preserve those trees. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
You certainly have, Director and Robin, and to Mr. Brand, who I see is on the call tonight. Yes, you certainly have gone above and beyond, and I certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone else does too. Thank you. Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And along those lines, through you to Director Heritage, then in response to that, should the developer end up taking this to LPAT, what does that mean for those trees potentially? Or what could it mean for those trees?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. If the developer takes this application to LPAT, he would have the opportunity to support the original plan that was submitted. So there is the potential that that buffer area could be lost. Those trees could be lost because they are non-native trees and they're not required to be preserved under the Scugog official plan. And the plan could ultimately look like the original plan that was submitted back in 2018. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Further, Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Director Heritage. I guess my last question would be through you to both Ms. Prentice, and thank you for answering all my questions, Ms. Prentice and Director Heritage. Is staff confident in saying that every possible avenue has been explored to protect that hedgerow, understanding that the developer has made many changes to that site plan to make every attempt possible? But from a staff perspective, are we confident in saying that there's no stone that has been left unturned on this development site?
Who wants to take that, Director Heritage or Ms. Prentice?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Yes, there's no stone unturned in terms of reviewing and ensuring that the majority of those trees along Union Avenue will be preserved. I just wanted to add one further comment in terms of alternatives for servicing. We actually looked at boring underneath the trees in order to make the connection to servicing along Union Avenue. And that wasn't a possibility either in our discussions with our arborist peer reviewer, because the boring couldn't be deep enough in order to not damage any of the tree roots. So in addition to reviewing the servicing going to the north around the hedgerow or to the south around the hedgerow, we also looked at boring underneath the hedgerow. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. You've asked some great questions, Councillor Guido, really looking after your constituents. We appreciate it. Any other questions on this report? Seeing none, I'll call the motion, please. All those in favor?
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I don't think we have a mover or a seconder on this one.
I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay, I have a mover, please. Councillor Watt and Councillor Kiesebrink. And now I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Thank you. Opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff. Moving now to 10.1.5, Blackstock Recreation Committee. And I have Councillor McDougall has pulled this, as well as Councillor Kiesebrink. Councillor McDougall, please go ahead.
Would you like me to move that, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll move that. Thank you. I just had a
seconder. Seconder. Councillor
Seconded
Kiesebrink,
it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, please go ahead, Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a quick question, and I'm not sure if Director Coleman's on the line, if perhaps she could answer it. I know that the Blackstock Arena is much beloved, and I know that there's much concern about seeing it continue on into the future. On the report, or in the minutes, it mentions in 6.2, it says that the Freon tanks, it's a closed system, and we have a couple of tanks, and it should last us several years. Is there any, can Director Coleman comment on that?
Director Coleman or Ms. Cornish. Director Coleman, did you?
I'd be happy to contact.
Okay, please go ahead.
Andrew, we don't know how long the Freon will last. We're talking about a 60-year-old refrigeration system, which is not going to be completely tight, and so there will possibly be some leakage. And it's really hard for us to predict how long it would last. I mean, optimistically, it could last for a few years, or it could last for a much shorter time. So it's really hard for us to predict at this point.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I just wasn't sure because it said it's a closed loop system and it could last years. So I wasn't exactly sure what that meant when that was in the report, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kiesebrink?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to thank Director Coleman, Mayor Drew, Regional Councillor Watton, our former CAO Allure, and staff who put out a fabulous grant request for the arena. We also really want to thank MSFIN because they made a pledge of $1 million towards our application. It's unfortunate that it didn't go through. I'm just wondering when would we be hearing a report on that grant request, and also perhaps just if there was any feedback, maybe at that time we could find out if there was any feedback given. I think it had to do with more the volume of applicants received as opposed to the merits of the report of the grant request. Maybe Director Coleman?
Director Coleman, yes.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. The feedback that we got for that grant was just that there was a very large volume of applicants for it and much more than they had funding for. And I do owe council a report to finalize what the preliminary design was and to present an estimated operating impact should we be able to move forward with that project in the future. And right now that report is scheduled to come to council in May of this year.
Okay.
Further?
And, yes, Madam Mayor. Could the report include a plan B if we have opportunity to further submit a grant application? I'm sure that we would, but what would our next steps be if we can't secure funding?
Through you,
Director?
Madam Mayor, to the councillor, we are working on a plan B. It won't be available in May. We want to update the building condition assessment for the Blackstock Recreation Complex so that we can get a good handle on, if we can't get a major grant opportunity, what are the major costs that we can expect in the next few years for the arena, and maybe some idea of exactly how much longer we can bring it along. There was a report a while back that said we needed to put $4.65 million in to repair it and to keep it as it is, as an undersized 80-year-old arena. So it's going to come to a critical point at some point where the cost of maintaining it outweigh the benefits, or that the township just can't afford those costs any longer. And so that's why we're doing the building condition assessment, to try to get a better handle on that. But that report probably won't be available to the fall of this year.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from council? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. Thank you. 10.1.6, the Public Library at Scugog Memorial Public Library Board. Councillor Kiesebrink, you pulled this?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to really just say thank you to the Rotary Club because providing the phone service to check in on seniors during the pandemic, and even delivery library books to them if they can't leave their homes. That's just amazing. And just to say thank you to the library team. What a wonderful job they've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we get a mover on that, Madam Clerk?
We haven't yet, no.
Okay, sorry. Councillor Kiesebrink, you want to make that motion?
Yes.
Okay, and Councillor Guido, I think you're the liaison, are you not?
Yes, I am, Madam Mayor. I'll second it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor Watton?
No, Madam Mayor, I was trying to get my hand down.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, the Rotary Club is truly amazing. What a wonderful service they provided for our people who are shut in. All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor. Thank you. Opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. 10.1.7, the Port Perry BIA Annual General Meeting on, and that is pulled by Councillor Brown and Councillor Kieserbrink. Councillor Brown, please go ahead. Did you want to make a motion first?
Yeah, I'll make the motion. That's fine.
Okay, seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor Kieserbrink. Please go ahead, Councillor Brown.
Just really a couple of housekeeping items on page 9 of 10, the council update to the BIA. It suggests overall impact on the average household bill is approximately 1.5%. It's talking about the taxes. That should be amended to say overall impact on a residential tax bill is 2.58%, taking in the region and education portions, with Scugog's portion accounting for 1.5%. So just to clarify.
Correct. Thank you very much. And you'll pass that along at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Councillor Brown?
Not on this one. The next one, yes, but not this one.
Okay, Councillor Kieserbrink, you had a question on this?
I'm good now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions. All those in favor, please say yes.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Thank you very much. 10.1.8, again, the BIA. I guess that's their minutes. And Councillor Brown, you wanted that one pulled.
Yes, and thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor. So again, just
You're
more
making the
housekeeping.
motion?
Yes, I will happily do so. Yeah.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Was that you, Councillor Kieserbrink, or Councillor Watton?
Councillor Kieserbrink.
Okay, thank you. Please go ahead, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Councillor Kieserbrink. It says vaccine rollouts are to include members of the fire department and emergency control group. That should read rollouts are to include members of the fire department. The emergency control group, I don't believe, has had its shots yet, and it is meeting regularly. Right.
Unfortunately, no, we haven't.
Okay. Well, I didn't want you to jump the queue, so.
No, I won't jump the queue. Councillor, anything else, Councillor Brown?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kieserbrink, did you have a question on this?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much. All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Okay. Opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. Thank you. Councillor Kieserbrink, you had pulled 10.1.9, but you did ask a question when the presentation was made. Do you still want this pulled?
I'm good, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so you're moving the report?
Yes.
And a seconder, please. Seconder,
I'll second.
Councillor Ross, thank you. Any questions? All in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Okay, opposed? And that's carried, thank you. 10.1.11, the Scugog Tourism Advisory Committee. Councillor Kieserbrink, you had pulled this. Oh, you have a conflict. Are there any questions on this? Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Guido, seconder. Councillor McDougall, questions or comments? Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like the minutes reflected that I was not in attendance. It says that I am in attendance, but I did not attend that meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. And any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
And noting Councillor Kieserbrink's conflict, opposed? Hearing none, thank you very much. That is carried. 10.1.12, again, Councillor Kieserbrink, you had pulled this, but I'm wondering if you had asked your question during the presentation and you still need it pulled.
Already asked. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a mover then, please? Councillor Watton, that's you're the liaison person, and Councillor McDougall has seconded. Any questions? Councillor Watton, your hand's still up for that. Are you ready to vote?
I am ready to vote, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? Hearing none, that is carried. 10.1.14, the ECDev Economic Development Advisory Committee. Councillor Kiesebrink, again, you had pulled this. Did you get your
Already
questions?
asked.
Okay, thank you. Could you like to move this?
Yes.
And who's the liaison? Is that you, Councillor Watton?
It's actually Councillor Guido.
Oh, sorry, I made that mistake before, didn't I? Okay, so who wants to second this?
I can second it, Madam Mayor. I'm happy
Okay,
to.
thank you, Councillor Guido. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
In
In
favor.
favor.
In
In
favor.
favor.
Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much. The next one is 10.2.2, the street sweeping contract. Councillor Ross, you pulled this. Did you wish to make the motion?
Yes, I'll make the motion. Thank you.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Brown. Please go ahead, Councillor Ross.
Thank you very much. I just want to thank staff for bringing this forward. It's been 2 years, I believe now, that it's been a difficult time in spring where staff, members of council and the public have had to check and recheck the job that's been done by the street sweepers. So I support this single the single contract that we've got here. Just quick question is, what's the process for checking to ensure that quality control is done with the street sweepers moving ahead, given that we've had trouble for the last 2 years?
Mr. Frasca, you here tonight?
No, he's not, but I can answer the question, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Director. Please go ahead.
Through you to the councillor. We have staff involved in the sweeping process. They are there with the water truck ahead of time, and we've also added a pre-sweeping ourselves to loosen things up with our tractor. So staff are on site when it happens, and so we can provide the quality control to make sure that it's being swept properly.
Okay, that's great. And given that there's always concerns from some residents, regardless of how clean the streets are, what's the best course for them to report perhaps missed sections or sections that they feel are not up to snuff?
If they do see sections that were not swept properly, they can contact us at our works email. I think it's works@scugog.ca or on our main telephone line.
Great, thank you, and thanks again for bringing this single source forward.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. I just want to know when they start the sweeping and if any thought has been given to the historically difficult areas, flooding and so on and so forth, whether they go first there or where they go and when they go.
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. Well, we have sweeping scheduled to start in the middle of April this year. We have to wait until there's no more chance that it's going to snow and that the temperatures are warm enough that our equipment won't freeze while it's working. And we do the more vulnerable areas first. We start in the downtown areas and then some areas that we know are sensitive because we don't want a lot of the sand and sediment flowing to the catch basins and the storm sewers out to the lake. So those are the areas that we do first.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kiesebrink, you have your hand up. Is that from before?
No, Madam Mayor, I just did want to mention that Mr. Frasca had emailed a question earlier because the hamlets of Nestleton and parts of View Lake weren't mentioned, and he did reply that Nestleton and View Lake would be considered part of the Blackstock and Caesarea areas and that they would be receiving sweeping first this season after the downtown and vulnerable areas. So just for the public record, I just wanted to mention that he had replied about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor, anything further? Councillor Kiesebrink?
That's all.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McDougall?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And question through to Director Coleman. Well, first, I guess a statement, not with regards to Scugog street sweeping, but with regards to MTO. Conversation occurred earlier this year, and MTO actually swept the shoulders off on the new bike route over top of the island from the lower side of the west side of the island to the other side of the island, which is pretty amazing because those wouldn't have got naturally brushed off by traffic or rain otherwise. The question I have is with regards to the active transportation plan coming forward and possibly some of the cycling lanes, which might be have minimum maintenance standards applied to those. Is there some sort of schedule that might be modified for street sweeping in Scugog? I know in particular it's line 6 seems to always get kind of bunged up a little bit with debris, and I know the cyclists won't ride in those lanes if they have, you know, bits of glass or metal in them. What's the plans for that for this year?
Director?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the councillor. We've had some discussions about this, how having an urban road in an agricultural area can have some conflicts because there are farm equipment that go on and off the road there. And to me, I think the biggest issue on line 6 is the tracking of mud. Now, we understand that's part of their operations, but we can't necessarily sweep every time that material is tracked onto the road. So we do spend a bit more time sweeping there than we would in other areas in the township. So we're aware of bike lanes and we try to maintain them best we can.
Further, Councillor McDougall?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no further questions, so I'll call on the motion. All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
Thank you. Opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. And we move now to correspondence and 10.3.1, correspondence received from the municipality of Clarington regarding Wilmot Creek vaccinations. Councillor Brown, you've pulled this. Do you wish to make the motion? Do you wish to make a motion on this?
Yes, please. It'll be a two-parter if that's possible.
That's okay.
And I'd like to thank Ms. Fleury for her help in drafting this. So this is the way that it would read. A, that the correspondence from the municipality of Clarington with respect to Wilmot Creek vaccinations be endorsed, and B, that the province also be requested to consider Canterbury Commons in the township of Scugog as a site for COVID-19 vaccine administration as part of phase 1.
Okay, thank you. Chief, do you wish to make any comment on that? Is our chief with us still?
Madam Mayor, do we have a seconder for this motion?
I'm sorry, do we have a seconder? Councillor Kiesebrink, are you seconding it or is this from before?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Chief, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, if the councillor would, Madam Mayor, repeat the question, please.
It's the motion. Do you have any comment on the motion with respect to mobile units and where they are going and when, or if you know? Your mic is off, Councillor or Chief.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with the mobile units for this area, and I don't think it'd be prudent for me to make comment on it without doing some research for you.
Okay. Councillor Watton, did you wish to make any comment on the mobile units? I don't want to catch you off guard there. Councillor Watton?
Sorry. No, I don't really think I have anything further either. I know that there was discussion at the region about trying to move it forward. I do know that there has been a mobile unit dispatched and that has visited some of the senior residences or homes in Brooklyn, and I mean that would be similar to long-term care, but they're independent living, but they are senior residents. I know that last week and I only know this through a friend who works at one of them, that there was the mobile unit that came there. So, I mean, I think that the region would be supportive as long as they have the supply to continue to meet all the demands. And certainly I would concur with Councillor Brown and Councillor Kiesebrink that if they could come to Canterbury Commons, that would be great. Yeah, that's
Okay, thank you very
much. But I do know that they do have a mobile unit out and about. I just don't know the logistics or how they are dispatching it at this time. Thank you.
I understand that they have one of the Durham transit buses that's either not being used or out of service that they are using. It's just for information. I'm not suggesting that that the motion is not necessary. I think it's a great motion. I just wanted to give you that for information. Councillor Guido.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I apologize, maybe I just need a little bit more clarification. Would this request be to replace the residents of Canterbury Commons going to the arena for a vaccination, or any other place within Durham region for a vaccination?
I wouldn't think so. I think it would still be their choice. Councillor Brown, do you have a comment on that?
No, well, as far as I can tell, it's just it designates them as a phase one. So whatever phase one would involve, it puts them at the front of the line. I don't know whether or not that would supersede their ability to get to the arena or wherever they may go to get shots, and some of them probably have them already. But it's just my way of suggesting that we cover all our bases in something like this, and that's why I'd like to push it forward.
Thank you. May I ask then, the Wilmot Creek vaccinations, is there mobility issues there? Is that why they were requesting it to be at that location?
Councillor Brown?
Well, if you're asking, it suggests that older adult lifestyle communities are in fact congregations of seniors as per the criterion for phase one. So, I mean, I could read the whole thing to you, but
no, Councillor Brown, that's fine. Thank you. I was just more trying to understand why one particular area in our township over others, but now.
Well, it makes the point, Councillor Guido, that 1,600 older adults reside in Wilmot Creek, and a significant portion of those are over 80 years old and are immunocompromised and or have health conditions. So, I mean, it goes from there. That's kind of their first statement. So they obviously want to look after their seniors, and in this particular case, people over 80 years old and I guess under also. So I'd like to do the same for us.
Oh, absolutely, Councillor Brown. I wasn't debating that by any means. I was just trying to understand what the intent of this motion was it to replace their availability at the arena versus at this location. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't suggest that anywhere, that it's replacing any current vaccination program. So I think it's just in addition to.
Yes, I believe so. Councillor, anything further, Councillor Guido?
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just asking for some more clarification from Councillor Brown as to the Canterbury motion, not the Wilmot Creek one, but your choice of this area is, maybe you could just supply me with some details as to why this was chosen, knowing that Canterbury Common has a number of at-risk individuals, but is not solely at-risk individuals. There's young families there too. Is there a reason this was chosen as opposed to another area that hasn't been identified?
Well, I could be mistaken, and through you, Madam Mayor, but my impression of Canterbury Commons is that it's an adult lifestyle community, and if there are families there, they are few and far between. It's mostly seniors, from what I understand. I don't know what the percentage is, Councillor Ross, but I do know that it's principally seniors, and they would be anywhere from my age and slightly younger to over 80. So it would be sort of the same category as the people at Wilmot Creek. And I don't know whether Wilmot Creek has any young families, because I believe they're also designated as an adult lifestyle community.
Okay. If I just further, my only concern is that by endorsing Canterbury Common that we may be skipping over other areas that aren't as close to vaccination centers, like the eastern side of the township, which Canterbury Common being closer to the arena and everybody in Scugog having the option to get vaccines anywhere in Durham, including the larger ones in Oshawa. Are we just missing some spots perhaps if we're going to put ourselves in this lane as far as identifying vaccination areas? Are we looking at the whole picture? Thank you.
Well, I think that there are seniors residents and long-term healthcare residences, and those I believe that those would be considered under a different qualification. So I can't speak to specifically how many vaccinations have gone on at the ones in our area, but this is an enclave of people who are seniors, principally seniors, and it's a it differs from long-term health care and from seniors residences in that they're not principally seniors residences, although they individually contain seniors, if you understand the difference.
Further, Councillor Ross?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Brown, had you considered the Rosa Street apartments? There's a lot of seniors in the Rosa Street apartments, and there's also a number of people who have mobility issues.
No, I haven't considered it, but I would be happy to include it if we can do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we're going to look at that, then let's look at the people in these areas who have mobility issues and go from there.
Okay, you can amend your own motion. Councillor McDougall, I'll let you work on that, and I'll call on Councillor McDougall.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to second Councillor Ross's comment with regards to the areas in the eastern side of the township. I think that, Scugog, Uxbridge, and Brock have done a relatively good job in terms of making sure that we have somewhere in, Port Perry, Uxbridge, and then up in Brock. But when we look on the easterly side of the lake, there's quite an area over there, from Janetville, View Lake, Caesarea, Nestleton, Blackstock, that it's I mean, it's not a huge distance to Port Perry or to Lindsay, but it is a distance, and that might be a consideration in adding into to this motion for mobile vaccination clinics in Scugog area.
I'm just, and I'll ask Councillor Brown, is the intention to have a more congregate setting? Is that the intention of your motion, to address sort of congregate settings like Canterbury Common and the Rosa Street apartments, or is there something else?
Well, in a word, yes. I mean, what I see is what they're doing at Wilmot Creek is they're securing the ability for their residents in that area, that enclave, that group of homes, to be vaccinated priority 1 or phase 1. So I would like the same consideration here. And if in fact that spreads throughout all of Scugog, I would be all for it. So it doesn't have to just be Canterbury Commons. They have to be they happen to be in my ward, and so is Rosa Street Apartments, and I'd be happy to include them as well in an amended motion for sure.
Councillor McDougall, further?
No, that's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Guido?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If we're going to consider other locations, then perhaps we could also include the Ash Street apartments.
Street, yes. I was searching my brain to find if there were other congregate settings, and yes, you're absolutely right. The Ash Street Apartments is the same type of thing.
Right, that's correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a little bit further from the arena than the other locations, but yes, they're in there. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Watton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and no offense to any of the councillors, but I do think we are getting far afield from where we should be on this, and I don't think that we can ask for, well, we can always ask, but I don't think we will be successful in our ask for mobile units to go all over Scugog when we have a vaccination site as close as we do for many of them. I'm struggling with someone, I don't know which one, who said it about what if we miss one. I think that perhaps a more general motion, Councillor Brown, reflecting the desire to have mobile units come to congregate settings would possibly be more in order than trying to outline all the various areas that we have within our municipality. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Don't see any further questions. Councillor Brown, did you wish to make an amendment to your motion?
Yeah, and I think that too, the principal word is requested to consider. So this isn't that we're demanding it, we're simply requesting that it be considered. So what I can feel out in this is the A can stay the way it is. It's just endorsing the Wilmot Creek, but the B would be that the province also be requested to consider Canterbury Commons and like adult lifestyle communities and seniors residences in the township of Scugog as a site for COVID-19 vaccine administration as part of phase 1.
Okay, you're talking about congregate seniors residences?
Yeah, you can add that if you wish, as however that would fit in the amended motion.
Okay, Ms. Frey, have you got that wording, or Madam Clerk?
Yes, I have the wording. I can't put it up on the screen, though. I'm not sure if Sandra has it there yet, or if you want me to read it back.
Okay, read it back, please, and maybe Sandra can get it up on the screen.
Okay, so part A was that the correspondence from the municipality of Clarington with respect to Wilmot Creek vaccinations be endorsed. And part B was that the province also be requested to consider Canterbury Commons and like adult lifestyle communities and congregate seniors residences in the township of Scugog as a site for COVID-19 vaccine administration as part of phase 1.
Is that how you want it worded, Councillor Brown?
Works for me, Madam
And
Mayor.
the seconder?
Works for me.
Okay, Ms. Frey, have you? Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay, is everybody clear on that? Any other further questions or comments? Okay, I'll ask all those in favor.
In favor.
Opposed? Hearing none, I will consider that carried. Thank you very much, Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And the bylaws have, that's the bylaw on the zoning amendment for 234 Union Avenue. The bylaw to dedicate lands as a public highway being Williams Point Road. And the bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw officer, Alan Ouellette. And the bylaw to appoint the clerk, Becky Jamieson. And so none of those were pulled, and they're all carried. Items for
Madam
separate.
Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Kiesebrink.
Sorry, I did pull 10.4.2, but I don't need to. I just would like to bring some clarity because a part of our motion to change 0138 to Heritage Lane and Beach Avenue to Shady Acres Avenue is not in the bylaw. So I asked Director Heritage about that, and she explained that Durham Region had recommended that this be done as a separate bylaw. She didn't have time to complete this, so this is going to come forward April 12th. So I didn't want the residents who had participated in that motion to think that we were missing them. That's still forthcoming.
Thank you very much. Okay, items, there's no items for separate discussion. There's no notices of motion under new business. Councillor Kiesebrink, you have something, and I do as well. Councillor Kiesebrink, what is your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just, I believe I have to have 2/3
Yes, you do.
approval because I didn't have this ahead of time, but it's, I would like to support the letter that went from the region of Durham. The motion was to add pharmacies in Durham region to the Government of Ontario's pilot project to deliver the AstraZeneca vaccine. However, I would like to ask Chief Burney if there are any updates with respect to the AstraZeneca vaccine specifically from the province, because maybe that motion is not relevant.
I don't believe there's any announcement yet about AstraZeneca, which prompted my letter to my email to MPP Lindsay Park. But I'll ask the chief if he's heard anything today. Chief
Hi,
Burney?
thank you, Mayor Drew. Unfortunately, I have not, but I can promise to look into it first thing in the morning and forward an email to all of you one way or the other.
Thank you. Okay, so I need a motion to allow the motion to come forward as a to be considered. Councillor Ross?
Yeah.
What we're discussing right now is whether the motion can be considered tonight.
I just think before you move on with that motion that I think the council has due diligence to ensure that AstraZeneca is not in the news when it was today. So I'm not sure that we've been given the proper information right now, and that may be, depending on the motion, may be relevant to Councillor Kiesebrink's motion. So I think it's with due diligence that people have a step back for a second, because it was in the news today as far as Ontario pulling back from it. So I'm not the expert to give that, but I don't think that we've been given the proper information right now.
Okay, so you're speaking to whether the motion should be given consideration. So the motion is up there that the rules of procedure be waived to permit the introduction of a motion for consideration. Moved by Councillor Kiesebrink. Do I need a seconder for that, Madam Clerk?
We do, yes.
Okay, a seconder to consider.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to withdraw just because like that, I just saw something just before council. And I would feel better to hear back from Chief Burney just to save council's precious time.
Okay, thank you very much. And as I said, I did write a letter today to MPP Lindsay Park. Okay, so that is withdrawn. And we didn't have a seconder, so we can withdraw that. Correct, Madam Clerk?
That's correct.
Thank you. I had one as well, and this has to do with waiving the fees for eat-in establishments. I need, I can't move it. So Councillor Watton, you indicated an interest in this. Will you move that the rules of procedure be waived to permit the introduction of a motion for consideration?
I have my hand up, Madam Mayor, to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. And Councillor Kiesebrink, you are seconding?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Questions to that motion? No, okay, your hand is down now. So could we vote on the introducing this for consideration?
In favor.
In favor.
Are you?
Favor.
In favor.
Okay. Opposed? Seeing none. The motion is passed to consider the motion. The motion is, whereas all businesses have been severely affected by the restrictions of operations during the COVID-19 crisis, whereas if inside service for eat-in establishments continues to be allowed for the 2021 summer season, the number of tables and the number of patrons may be restricted, whereas these distancing restrictions reduce the revenue and viability of the business, whereas the addition of seasonal patios will help to augment the loss of inside seating, Therefore, be it resolved, the parking spot fee and road occupancy permit fee for seasonal patios be waived for 2021. I need a 2/3 majority to approve this motion, and I understand that Councillor Watton is willing to make the motion.
I will second, Councillor, Madam Mayor.
That's Councillor McDougall?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Guido, you have your hand up?
I just have a question, Madam Mayor.
Please.
Thank you. Fully supportive of this motion. Just questioning, is this motion township wide?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, perfect. So all restaurants within the township of Scugog will be able to benefit from the additional seating outside without fees. That's wonderful.
Yes, that's
Thank
right. Correct, Madam Clerk?
That's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? Or Councillor McDougall, you have a question?
No, I don't have a question, but this is a great motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. No further questions. All those in favor, I need 2/3.
In favor.
So I think,
In favor.
Favor.
are there any opposed? Seeing none, I can assume that that's 2/3, and thank you very much for supporting this motion. And that takes us to the end of our agenda tonight. There's no closed session. Could I have a motion, please, on the confirming bylaw? Councillor McDougall, Councillor Ross. All those in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Opposed? Seeing none, the confirming bylaw is approved. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Guido, seconded. Councillor Brown. Questions, comments? All those in favor?
In favor.
Favor.
Opposed?
In favor.
Oh, that's good. Thank you very much, everybody. This meeting is adjourned. That motion is passed. Thank you. That was a great meeting. Got a lot of business done tonight. Thank you for your participation, Council, and thank you for the excellent reports. And Ms. Fleury, thank you once again. Parting is such sweet sorrow. And we will see you again, I'm sure, at some point down at the region, or maybe you'll come and visit us sometime. But it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. And we look forward, Becky, to your taking over the reins. What is your official date? Mr. CAO, do you have an official date? I think it's Wednesday.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I was just trying to find my officially, she takes over now.
She takes over now. Well, welcome. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.
Good night.